Thank you very much for joining us tonight here at the new community center. We're going to be starting off our community workshop process for the Laguna Niguel Parks Needs Assessment. Now, this is going to be a 5, 10, 15-year long-range planning document, and what we're kicking off tonight is the community outreach portion. Now, what a needs assessment is really a guide, a roadmap, or an implementation tool to find out what parks, recreation facilities, and programs are wanted and needed by the community over those next 5, 10, 15 years into the future. The process really breaks down into 4 segments that we're going to be going through for this particular project. First, the inventory of existing conditions. We went out into the field, looked at all the parks and facilities available to the community members, and then we recorded all that information. Now we're at that stage where we're going to be looking at an extensive community engagement process where we want to hear from you. Most importantly throughout this process is your voice. Every community is different, and we want to make sure that every plan that we prepare for is based on local needs from the local community voice. So please share this information, share the videos with your friends and family, tell your neighbors, put it on Nextdoor. We want to hear from as many people as possible. During this process, as I mentioned, we're just starting the community outreach process here now too. At the end of it, roughly 5 to 6 months, we'll conclude the process with a report where you'll actually get to see the final conclusions and efforts that we've put together that culminate all of our research and all of our community outreach. Now, as we go along the way, I also want to promote, and you're going to see a website link later on, of the project website. On this project website, you're going to be able to see updates periodically along the way from each one of our community outreach efforts. You'll get to see some of the results, so you can follow along with us. So I encourage everybody to go to the project website and check back regularly. As I mentioned, we're starting with the community outreach. This is our first workshop of this process, and there's going to be several other outreach efforts, and I would encourage everybody to participate in every single one of them. Tonight launches our first video presentation. We've also had stakeholder interviews, which we'll continue to conduct over the next month or so. This workshop will have a statistically valid multimodal survey as well coming up. So please, some people will get a phone call or a text or an email. Please take part in that process as we go through. We'll have another 2 workshops after this one. We'll also have pop-up events the community staff will be hosting at various areas throughout the city. So that way, people can take part in several different forms, whether it's online, in person, live, or digitally on the devices at home. Now, tonight's efforts, we're actually going to be going through a workshop 1 process, which starts with, as I mentioned, the live video presentation tonight. We're kicking off this outreach effort after tonight. Actually live right now is survey 1, and that's going to be open for 2 weeks. That's going to be online, available through social media channels. It's also available on the project website. And I'll show you a QR code tonight for our home audience who's with me tonight, our live studio audience. So that way you guys take the survey now as well too. It will be live for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, we take a week to review the data, and then we're going to collect it, synthesize it, and post it back online. So in a short term, you can see not just the results of tonight's workshop immediately, but also if you're seeing the recording of this, and this is a presentation that you're catching within that 2-week window, you can go on the project website and take the survey at your convenience. So that way everybody gets a chance to take the survey and have their voice heard. And before I continue and talk a little bit about the information we've seen and heard, I want to promote the feedback button on the project website. If you're seeing a recording of this video and you're outside of the survey window, there's a feedback button online where you can take that you can click on that feedback button and send in a direct question, comments on facilities you may want, programs you may want. Anything is open in terms of Parks and Recreation. It comes directly to the design and planning team, and we can still hear your voice. That'll be open for the entire project, all the way to the conclusion at the end of the year here. What I'd like to share is a little bit of background, some of the information we've seen thus far, before I launch into the actual survey component. And what we've seen is some of the demographic makeup of the community here is a population that's just about at 66,000 residents. And when we compare that population demographic to, say, the county average, we find that some of the largest community members are from the age of 35 to 64, representing almost 43% of the population. That's higher than the county average. So when we look at that, it's more of an aging community. We also see a dip in some of the younger age groups there, 19 to 34, being within the 18 percentile range. Now this tells us some information on what's the community makeup. What should parks and facilities planning be conducted in terms of representing some of those age groups and populations as we move through this. But most importantly, I want to hear from the community. So as we move through this process, we're going to make sure that we match those demographics as well as match data representing community members all across the city geographically, not just in one locale. Also, other elements that we've done, as I mentioned earlier, is we went through all of the parks and facilities to look at what's there, what's existing now. We also went through a lot of the previous planning documents, such as the capital improvement budget, the trails master plan, as well as zoning and land use plans and previous studies in addition to these. So that way we can look at what has been done in the past, what are we doing now, and how can we adjust into the future based on the community input. As I mentioned, during that facility tour, we came across 30 different parks, more than 125 acres of city parkland. This beautiful Crown Valley Community Center, including the YMCA and swimming pool, the Sea Country Senior and Community Center, as well as multiple county parks and several regional trails. There is a lot of recreation amenities throughout the city and very beautiful amenities. But what I want to know is not just what is existing today, what do you want? As we move through this, your voice is going to be the most important voice in this process. So please, I will reiterate again, I want to make sure that you share this video with people, put it on Nextdoor, share your friends, tell your neighbors, so that way everybody can participate throughout this process. That inventory that we conducted, we went through each park, we photo inventory everything, we looked at the benches, the trash receptacles, what fields existed in what areas, what playgrounds existed. So that way when I hear your voice, whether it be through the feedback button or the online surveys, I'll be able to understand exactly what you're talking about and where you're coming from. So that way we can create a two-way dialogue and have a common vernacular of the community here based on your ideas and the inventory that exists. Now don't worry about reading this chart. We're going to post everything on the project website, so you won't have to dive in and see all the details right now because it is rather small, particularly if you're watching at home. As I mentioned, this process is just beginning now tonight with the workshop number 1. The extensive community engagement will include stakeholder interviews, sports organization questionnaires, 3 community workshops, September 8th, tonight, as well as October 9th and November 6th coming up in the future, a statistically valid survey, project website, and feedback comments. Please, if you find something beyond the survey questions or you think of something in a couple of weeks or a couple of months down the road, please share it with me. I want to continue to hear voices as we go through this process, as well as social media comments. Anything you post on the city's Facebook pages, we'll make sure we go through and collect as much information as people will want to provide. Now tonight, we're starting with questions that I have. What made the community characteristics of this city such a great place to live, work, and play? I'm going to be asking you questions through an online survey tonight where I want to hear your voice on what makes this city so amazing and what are those beautiful characteristics that make it such a wonderful place to live, work, and play. And we're going to look at the other side of that coin, and I'm going to ask you, what are some of those issues starting to impact, maybe negatively, those great community characteristics that you're identifying for me? And then lastly, how can Parks and Recreation get involved and help mitigate some of those issues that would be negative and be impacting those community characteristics? It starts with what's great here. What are those wonderful community characteristics? What is impacting them? And how can we solve those issues as we move forward? This is just the beginning of the process, but this information that you're going to provide on their survey will help me identify further areas of analysis. And this will help shape further surveys that we're going to conduct and other outreach events, so that way we can start to follow the path of the community voice. Not just a pre-described path of going through a pattern and finding out these are national standards and they apply everywhere. Not at all. This is entirely based on your local community voice and what your community wants within your Parks and Recreation system. So again, I would encourage everybody to take the survey now, take it tonight. There's the web link here on the video, as well as on the social media buttons down below, and you can click on it there or on our website. And please make sure if it's outside of the survey process and you're watching this as a recorded video, take the feedback survey. You can click on that feedback link at any time throughout the whole process, all the way to the end, and share your comments and feedbacks, and it will go directly to the design and planning team, and we'll include those in our analysis as well. So here are our survey links for the website for all the home viewers, as well as the project website and the active survey, which will be open until September 24th. I would encourage everybody to come to the live workshops as well and attend on workshop number 2 on Saturday, October 9th at 1 p.m. All more information will be also posted on the project website, so take a visit and let us know what you think. We want to hear your voice. That's the most important part of this process. Thank you very much.